Everyone. Thank you for attending today's Windows 11 webinar. Presenting to you all today is Mitch Doctor, the Microsoft North American Commercial Master Trainer, and Ian Pletinick, Category Manager with Insight. My name is Aubrey, and I'm going to be your host for the day. Before we begin, I want to cover a few housekeeping items. First, Mitch will be screen sharing his presentation today. So if you are having difficulty seeing his screen, please make sure the media player widget is both open and fully maximized. At the bottom of your audience console are multiple application widgets you may use. If you have any questions during the webinar, you can submit your questions in the Q&A box, and our speakers can answer them for you. You can also expand your slide area by clicking on the Maximize icon on the top right of the slide viewer. If you have any technical difficulties, please click on the Help widget. Lastly, if you would please take a moment to fill out the survey at the end of the webinar, we would greatly appreciate it. And with that, I'll pass it off to Ian to start off today's presentation.
Thank you very much, Aubrey. Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of our What's New in Windows 11 webinar series. Our first topic covered security and compliance, where Mitch talked about the new benefits of Windows 11. The second topic, we covered manageability and deployment and learned all about the new capabilities of autopilot, Intune, and how everything works together with Windows 11. And now today, we'll be taking you through productivity and collaboration and really diving into some of those new features and benefits around Windows 11 when it comes to the hybrid workforce and everything else that goes with it. So I'd like to pass it over to Mitch Doctor today. And then, like Aubrey said, go ahead and maximize the screen and enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian, and thank you, Aubrey. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our third iteration, I guess, of our Windows 11 webinar. Today, we are shifting gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about productivity. Oh my goodness, productivity and collaboration. Gotta get those words out after lunch, right? So what we're gonna do, the layout is just gonna be me. Don't worry about looking at the slides. You can actually minimize the slide viewer right now. Everything you need is coming right here within the video. So make sure your media player is nice and big, and we'll get started. So as you can see, again, we're gonna do Windows 11 productivity and collaboration. But I do want to just remind everybody that Windows 11 Pro, from us starting this back in December, and up until now, it is still really built around that idea of hybrid work and the hybrid era that we are now all residing in, of course. So as Ian kind of played off of, yes, we spent a lot of time talking about security and the importance of Windows 11 and its security story. We talked about that easy management and being able to use tools like Autopilot and Microsoft Endpoint Management and Intune and Azure Active Directory to have the utmost ease when managing systems and deploying brand new systems. And today we're going to talk about one of my absolute favorite topics, because this is the fun stuff that the end users get to play with, right? We're going to talk about how Windows 11 is intuitively productive, whether we're making collaboration easier or smarter, or if we're want to be able to focus or create or multitask and be in 16 places at once. That is the idea of today's conversation when we talk about productivity, because it's really about making sure that no matter what Windows 11 device is right for your end users or for the end users at the end of the day, there is a Windows 11 device that fits each individual work style across your organizations. So with that, let's go ahead and jump in. So I'm going to be showing you guys some of the deck, and we'll touch on things here and there a little bit. And then if we do have some time toward the end of my half of the chat, I do want to show you a quick live demonstration as well. So we're gonna roll right into it. So first off, we need to understand that Windows 11 productivity has really been a kind of a foundational key of the upgrade to Windows 11 from Windows 10. Yes, I know we said years and years ago at Microsoft that Windows 10 will be the last operating system you'll ever need. Of course, the world changed around us. We now have Windows 11 around the hybrid work world. And because of the way workers now work on their devices, we understood that productivity and collaboration were going to be key features that were necessary in the future of computing. And that's exactly what we looked at with Windows 11. And the biggest thing is things like collaboration, as well as productivity tools like multitasking, or the way users use that interface, is a huge driver toward purchase. Even though security was the #1 investment right, priority for companies to look at in new devices, productivity is still the number one purchase driver. Why? Because their users need to be happy with the devices and the systems that they're using at the end of the day, right? And so the top reason for device purchases is actually leading toward the new Windows 11 UI, or the new user interface, the way it's able to multitask. And then there is a huge new feature, which I'm in love with, is a tabbed file explorer. So tabbed file explorer was a huge feature request from years and years and years ago, even back towards Windows 8 for that matter. So Windows 11 in its most recent update back in November of 2022 actually added the file explorer with multiple tabs, as well as can be personalized to each individual user. And you're gonna go, okay, this is all great. What is it doing? What are the users really seeing? And you'll see here that our net promoter score for Windows 11 versus Windows 10 is actually 17 points higher in just a little over a year, right? So this study was done back in December as to look at, year over year from Windows 11 now being a year old, how are we doing compared to Windows 10? And users are just happier. They just are happier, and they're actually spending more time on their Windows 11 devices as well. So why? One, simplified interface. And a simplified interface means a couple different things. One, you can now create your start menu, and in your start menu, you can also now create application folders. The same way we're used to doing this on our mobile devices, you can now do this inherently in Windows 11. No tricks, no add-ons, no plugins. You can just drag and drop applications on top of each other. Like me, I have Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, right? My core productivity tools all in a single folder in my start menu, so they're easy to find. You can also fully personalize things like your file explorer, or the old school folks still call file explorer, right, my computer. Some of the old school users, including myself, I'll go I mean file explorer, right? So the idea here So the idea here is that that's fully personalizable. So you can select which files are always there, which are your favorite, which files you always want to see, or which folders you always want to see. And you can have that in a tabbed experience, just the way you would tab in, say, a web browser. You can have that tabbed in the actual file explorer as well. There's also the idea of, with fewer clicks and fewer swipes, if you're using touch, there is easier way to get to things you might use all the time, whether that's accessing and manipulating the taskbar, or refreshing the start menu, or anything else for that matter. And then the other big thing, which we did talk about in our security conversation, as well as our deployment conversation, was it's easy to get on and get ready with single sign-on, right? Using Windows Hello for Business, or biometrics, or pins, or whatever else. Once a user physically signs into that device, they're single signed on to absolutely everything whatsoever, which is pretty incredible. And then we do have brand new AI automation tools that are part of the Windows 11 experience. So think of things like, a menial task. Maybe you open up the same email, and it's a report email. You get it at 9 o'clock every morning, right? And you're going to open up that email, and it has a file attached to it. Great, it's an Excel file. Wonderful. So you would usually go into this email and then open the email and then download the file. And after you download the file, you scroll down to maybe the 10 cells that are necessary information for you and your job, and then you put it in maybe your own Excel file, or you put it into a different file, or you email it to your team on that zoomed in look, right? These things can all be automated using Power Automate. So pretty incredible stuff. Also, the idea behind all this was to allow the user to just have a better focus and just make it simpler and more intuitive for them to get around. It was also calming, and it was really funny. Ian and I were just talking about this in the pre-show. Making that move to the start menu is pretty incredible and pretty important, because everybody goes, but you moved it, it's in the middle, it's so far away now, right? I'm gonna hide myself so you guys can see. So it's all over the place now, right? Well, but it's not. It's centered, because your world is centered. So instead of looking all over the place, right, and you got to go look at the bottom of your screen, or if you're like me and I have 3 monitors, I'm looking at the bottom of whichever monitor I'm on, or if I have colleagues and other users use those giant widescreen, like 36 or 42 inch widescreen format monitors, and they got to do this every time they want to go to their start menu. right? Like that's not fun for anyone, where they could just look straight down, right? And that start menu is there for them. The idea is to be calming. The idea was also to reduce cognitive load and worrying about where and what. And we found that it actually significantly decreases fatigue within users. And Microsoft did a test on own Microsoft employees because we're the best guinea pigs at Microsoft. But we did find that there is a significant difference when looking at something like something as simple as a UI interface that has a changed from a middle to from the left, for instance. And it's just a bit more effortless. And I think that's really where we went with Windows 11 around that productivity idea. So we did even more. So not only did we put the start menu front and center, which for the record, you can still move it to the left-hand corner if you want. And again, that's the demonstration I do want to show you if we do have some time. So we'll get there. But the other things of it staying in the flow. So Microsoft Search in Windows is actually part of that start menu experience. So say you open up the start menu, you start typing anything you want. Whether you want to find a program, you would type in Word. If you want to find a specific program, file within that program, you could type in that file name, or even if I type in Word, I would see all the files associated to that application. So in just one or two clicks, I can get to right where I was in a specific document where the application automatically opens. And this doesn't just work for, say, Microsoft Office. This would work from Adobe. This would work from literally any file associated to an application. But I'll do you one better. It doesn't just search your computer, because it can also search the web, your OneDrive, SharePoint, or anything else that device is physically connected to, including a company's SharePoint, right? So it makes it really easy to find and search absolutely anything within kind of that work life that that computer is attached to just make it that much quicker and that much more intuitive and productive when trying to find what you need. Then we also gave it new tools toward organizing the desktop. What do I mean? I'm talking about Snap, right? This is two windows side by side, or windows side by side and left and right, and getting those things the way we want. Now, every user might organize their applications a little bit differently, and that's okay, because our new Snap tools can give you options, because Windows understands how many screens you have, how big they are, what resolutions they are, and how you can very easily manipulate them so it works best on your individual setup or the setup of that user. Now, what is really cool, and this goes one step further, if you're a multiple desktop user like myself, so custom desktops, meaning one computer and I have different quote unquote desktops. So if you've ever hit the Windows key and tab, it'll and left and right, it'll actually switch out desktops and where you are. I'm sorry, Windows tab is everything you have open on a single desktop. Windows control left and right will actually switch your desktops. That's here nor there, right? But the idea is that I have different experiences. I have an experience for what I'm doing right now, presenting to all of you. It's a clean desktop and it's nice and it's pretty and it's ready to be presented on. I have another one that is literally open with probably 6 or 7 PowerPoint decks right now because I'm actively working on content. And then I have another one that is actively working on some video edits. And I keep kind of those worlds separate. So necessarily they don't have to mix and match, but I am also in the right mental and mindset as I do that. And then each of those individual desktops, I have set up a different way, with windows being snapped around and organized that way. And I use snap groups to keep that all together. So a snap group will bring all those windows that I always have snapped in a certain position, and I'll always bring it back to that certain position. And then because Windows can be interacted with so many different ways, we're not just a mouse and keyboard, right? There's touch, there's feel, there's mouse, there's keyboard, there's obviously our voice, our touch, there's pen and whatever you want to look at. Multitasking has become incredibly more easy because our touch is now able to use Snap much more easily as well. So instead of going side to side by holding it and heading toward the top of the screen, you'll get those same options as if you're using a mouse and keyboard, making it just a little bit more intuitive. Now, this is a tool I literally use every single day, and it's called the Focus tool. The Focus tool is on the bottom right-hand side of your taskbar. By clicking it, it'll do a couple different things. You'll notice here I can set up for how long, and it would do it instantaneously, and it does exactly what it looks like. it controls your focus time. So for instance, I'm using this right now presently as I'm presenting to all of you. So I get no notifications, I get no pop-ups, I have no numbers or tabs or anything going on my computer that can be seen whatsoever, and nothing's going to distract me because I'm obviously want to focus on what I'm doing presently, right? Or you want to focus on that project coming in and you're going to put yourself on, do not disturb so you can focus and finish on something, at the end of the day or whatnot. So being able to control your time to achieve your goals and getting more done is really great with just overall fewer distractions. So the other thing we are doing here, and this is in the File Explorer. So one, you'll notice that the File Explorer is tabbed there, and that's that plus sign on the top. But the other big thing is you'll get contextual recommendations. That means Windows can suggest different files and whatnot for your everyday tasks. So you're going to end up spending far less time scrolling through folders and start menus when, well, it'll just suggest, oh, you used this recently, or hey, you used this just 2 days ago and you have a meeting on your calendar today that matches the name of this PowerPoint. This is what you want to open. It is literally that easy. You can also use a sharing from preferred applications and attach certain files straight to messages with the integration of obviously Outlook and all the different Office apps to the Windows OS, just making it that much easier to literally right click on a file and hit share in an email, and Outlook opens and you touch who it is. What you see here are active files on a SharePoint or on a OneDrive that are being shared. You'll actually see who those users are that have access to this item or are presently using this item as well. So I know we kind of mentioned that there's different ways of using Windows 11, because remember, there are two-in-ones, flip and folds, there's tablets, there's desktops, there's workstations with a touch monitor, or there's so many different ways of interacting with Windows 11, whether that's touch or type or flex or swiping. And the idea is no matter which way you use it, Windows 11 adopts to that way and adapts depending on what that user interface is, all the way going from getting rid of the taskbar altogether if you wanted to on touch, as well as being fully integrated in utilizing things like narrator and voice to type, and not just voice to type, but also controlling Windows completely with your voice, which leads us to the most accessible Windows ever. Windows 11 has 6 times the amount of accessibility tools than literally any operating system that's ever come before it or in existence at the time. There are a couple absolutely gigantic improvements when it comes to this. Narrator, of course, has been around, and narrator, if you've ever used a narrator tool, it always sounds like a robot might be talking to you, right? That it's kind of the idea you get behind it. But we've introduced the idea of natural voices, which means we have voice actors and actresses who have recorded their voice in different vowels and different sounds so that a narration sounds familiar and natural, like it is an actual person. Along with focus tools, of course, we talked about that we can use things like the ease of access bar, which you see a picture of right now. I'll zoom into that so you guys can see that. So this ease of access bar that you guys do see here above my head, right, is the idea of being able to turn on and off those accessibility tools in a single click without digging all the way down into the settings app, right? Because, you used to have to go all the way settings, this, that, right? So you have that ease of access tool that can do that for you. And I do want you guys to see what integrated live captioning looks like. So by turning on live captioning, it actually works absolutely anywhere on anything. That means if I go film a brand new raw video right now to my computer and I open it up to play, I can open up live captioning, not live, look at me, live captioning on Windows 11, and I will have captions to that video that I just recorded. So this system-wide live captioning is able to convert all audio into live text, as well as if you want to use that live text, you can also turn on that it will capture my physical voice or any voice coming into that computer as well. So you can integrate both spoken word, like I'm speaking to you right now live, as well as I can include that those words straight from the video as well. So kind of cool stuff. So we are going to switch gears here for the next couple minutes into collaboration, but I did see a couple questions really quick in chat, or a couple comments. A couple people saying they use focus tools all the time and they love it. I think the question is about that. Does that integrate with Teams statuses? If you're thinking about, I think you're referring to focus tools and do not disturb. It absolutely does. So for instance, if you go into focus tool and you have Teams on, Teams will automatically put you into do not disturb for whatever amount of time. And Teams will actually pop up, hey, Windows has set you to do not disturb. Check your Windows settings if this was incorrect or something. So yes, it is absolutely fully integratable with Microsoft Teams. Lots of folks saying that they are loving Windows 11 and they really do like the feature set here. And Brandy, live captioning is pretty incredible. I'm absolutely in love with it. So I'll save the Q&A questions here for just a little bit later, but I didn't want to miss those because Q&A stays. What's in live chat will end up disappearing, right? So let's talk a little bit about smarter collaboration, because you know, we're all working from everywhere. Hybrid work is the world we now live in, right? But we have to be able to communicate with our colleagues, and we have to be able to communicate with our teams. And we did a couple different things in Windows 11 on purpose, right? To make sure that that gets done. One, we have a background blur built into the AI of Windows 11. This can be turned on and off, of course, along with automatic framing. But the idea here is that it helps whomever is on the other side focus on you, the user, along with making things like eye contact really natural, which I'll show you here in just a second, using AI to allow I guess eye contact. So for instance, if I was reading off my notes here, right, and I was say scanning and I'm reading off the screen, it'll still look like I'm looking and talking to you. For the record, I am not using this right now. I really am talking to you, but that's a whole other issue for here nor there, right? As well as being able to instantly share applications right from your taskbar, and universal mute button. And we'll look at each of those here in a second. But this is that intelligent background blurring. Noise suppression is pretty incredible as well. And as you saw there is a really, really, really cool way of being able to have you present using new AI, and we'll show you that video again here in just a second. But the idea of all of this is to allow you, the user, and those users on the other side of a meeting to really be able to see you and focus on you, so that what is most important are the users and that team that are communicating with one another. Then this is my absolute favorite thing in existence, the universal mute button. Being able to multitask, and like I told you, I have windows all over the place across multiple desktops, and I'm tabbing all over the place. You know, where's my meeting? Like, how do I go find my meeting? And someone goes, hey, Mitch, can you answer this question for me really quick, please? I'm like, oh, I'm muted. What? Like, you know, I don't have to look around anymore. I can unmute and mute myself. Any user can, right from their taskbar. And this will mute your microphone and any input into your device, or unmute any input into your device in one quick fell swoop. So, for instance, if my kid comes running in here, which has happened before and hasn't happened yet today, thank goodness, and he starts screaming at me, I can quickly mute myself to any input and any output whatsoever, so that, you know, you don't hear my 2-year-old yelling how much he wants to go watch Elmo again for the 30th time today. So, you know, there are different reasons to why. Think of dogs barking or anything else for that matter, but a universal mute button is a game changer. And then, you know, do you want to be able to present easy? Well, yeah, I think we all want to just be able to present easy. So we have with Teams and PowerPoint and even Excel for that matter, or any other file that you want to share onto Teams, you can quickly and easily share that by just hovering over that open file or that open application on your taskbar and just hitting share to Teams. It makes it just that much easier. You don't have to go to share in Teams and go down and find the different files or anything. If it's already open, you just right click on its icon in your taskbar and just hit share. And it's just that much easier to get work done and get right into that collaboration that you need without wasting time. With that kind of brings us to the end of our collaboration piece and some of that, but I do want to show you, because I have 4 or 5 minutes until I'm going to throw it back over to Ian, so Ian can share some of how Insight works and looks at all this, and what are some wonderful devices that they have available right now that is going to be using the best of Windows 11 that is available to start looking at right away. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch over to my desktop. You should see my live desktop right now. So this is me on my computer at the moment. So first things first, that's a start menu. You'll notice mine is centered. And a lot of people do ask me, but Mitch, it kills me. How do I move it? So really easy to get in and manipulate these things. So I'm going to right click on my taskbar and I'm going to hit taskbar settings. I know the words might look a little small right now. I do apologize, but I'll zoom in here for you guys. So once I am in here, you'll notice I'm in my taskbar settings. I'll come down here and it says taskbar behaviors, and I'll click in. And right here it says taskbar alignment. It's centered right now, right? So I'm gonna close my magnifier. If I hit left, everybody just watch right here next to me, right? Boom, done. I can move this back and I can recenter this. The start menu works and looks exactly the same. But again, now I'm doing this to look at my start menu rather than this, right? Just that small ease of just kind of looking down and centered on my machine, again, makes it a little bit and that much more friendlier, at least for me. The other big thing I do want to show you is the live captioning. I think it's pretty incredible. Windows 11 is the only operating system in existence that in its settings, I don't know if you guys can see, in settings in Windows 11, there is a whole page for nothing but accessibility. That's right. There is nothing but an accessibility settings page for absolutely everything. But I do want to show you what live captioning looks like. So live captioning, and I'm going to turn it on. We're going to work with it here live in just a second. You'll notice I could turn it on with Windows Control L for live captioning on and off for a quick bit. I can use that ease of access in our taskbar we talked about. I can even edit and manipulate, when you guys will see the preview. If I want to see yellow on blue, I can actually manipulate what that live captioning looks like throughout my machine. There you can see that, and I'm going to change that back to the default, which is just that white on black. But I do want to turn it on because I want you guys to see what this looks like. So on top, it just says, ready to caption in English. Of course, I don't have a video going right now, right above my head here, but I can actually go into the settings and I can even change, for the record, I can change caption languages, meaning I can add multiple languages to this as well. But in preferences, you'll notice I can also include my microphone audio. And when I do include my microphone audio, you'll notice that I am live captioning on my screen instantaneously without any thought whatsoever. Now, the big question is going to do, hey, does this require internet? Yes. Yes, it does. That is how this all works, right? So you do have to be connected to the internet in order for captioning and live captioning to work as flawlessly as it is right now. With that being said, I want to thank you for your time. I'm going to look at some of that Q&A. We will have time for Q&A after Ian. I'll try and type in some of that stuff if they're quick and easy answers and send it out to everyone. Without any further ado, thank you. I'm going to send it over to Ian. Ian, take it away.
All right. How about that, everybody? Mitch Doctor. Awesome presenter. So today, from the Insight side, I really want to highlight Windows 11 and some of our partnerships, whether it's our CPU partners and some of the changes that they've made to their devices and their chips, and then also our OEM partners, and ultimately tie it all together so we can start understanding, what exactly is Windows 11 with the new manufacturers. All right. So looking into our first partner here with Intel, right? Intel and Microsoft have worked so closely together for so many years to really be able to deliver a good product every single time. So our 12th and 13th generations are now coming out, and these devices are going to be running on all sorts of these processing improvements. Now, to just mention security, right? We already know that DPM 2.0 is going to be a big requirement here. Well, we also know that Microsoft Pluton technology on the processor level is also going to be an improvement. But that's not to mention that all of these other processing CPU device manufacturers, our ecosystem partners, all of them tied in together, all have their own security products as well built into those devices. So when we look at this new environment and we talk about the hybrid workplace, it's really important to understand, how can we go and talk with our clients about it. Number one, we talk about security, that zero trust model, and making sure that all users and all devices really have that integrity that we can verify prior to giving them any sort of access. Number two, we talk about productivity and manageability and collaboration. So take this for instance. If I'm walking around, if I had a computer that was 4 years old, I wouldn't feel very confident doing this. I'm walking around, I'm still connected. We can see the inside building. My audio is on Bluetooth. In the past, I wasn't even able to connect some of my AirPods or anything else to a device unless it had that sort of requirement on the actual device. But now all of that stuff, all of our Bluetooth settings, all of our Wi-Fi, these are some of the biggest improvements that we've seen in decades when it comes to 5G and Wi-Fi 6 and some of the other ability to connect with our devices and whatever else we might be accessing. Manageability and deployment, right? We talked about autopilot, we talked about Intune, but how about vPro, right? Having the ability to send patches to all sorts of devices, you don't have to physically have access to them. And then lastly, having just an insane portfolio of devices that really fit any type of role, whether they're a power user or somebody who's in the field, or like Mitch was talking about, those 2-in-1s, which we'll talk a little bit more about with some of our other partners. So now switching gears and really looking at another CPU partner Insight works very closely with is AMD. All right, just make sure you guys got that slide. All right, so with AMD, some really cool things are happening right now. Number one, with the 7000 series and the Ryzen 7000s, we're going to have new Ryzen AI built into those chipsets. And this is something that's going to become very available to our commercial space in spring and summer of this year. And really what this is able to do is really put that AI portion into the processor. So now we're able to do things like Mitch was talking about, where if I'm reading off of a screen here, my eyes are still looking. Really creepy stuff, but it just makes the experience a lot better. Now we talk about performance, right? These 7000 series AMD processors and the devices themselves, they're actually being smarter with how they use the cores to really get that effective way of productivity with the device battery life. The 6000 series, for instance, you have 45% longer battery lives. So as the generations have improved, so has the ability to really lock down the different types of compute within the processor to really give it a better battery life, productivity, whatever you want to call it. Now, you tie this in with some of the GPU and some of the graphics that are built in with some of these processors, and you get a really, really great experience. So ultimately, you can kind of see that everything starts with the operating system, then it's a layered approach with the security. We have our different chipsets, we have our different products themselves with our OEMs, and you tie that all together, and you think about what a device was like 4 years ago, it's really, really incredible to see some of those changes. So now, looking at our next partner, I wanted to highlight some of the things around Lenovo and what they're doing with our hybrid workplace, for instance. So you can see that they're still talking about performance and security, as well as finding that right device. But something that I really, really think is incredible is their X1 lineup right now. So we've always known X1 Carbon, Executive, right? We've always known the Yoga, oh, that's nice, it folds. And then now we actually have something called the X1 Fold. So just really understanding the hybrid workplace, really understanding how people are using their devices. Mitch talked about the aptics and the pen and how everybody can collaborate in the new inking experiences. So all of these manufacturers are thinking about this as they're building out their newer devices. But that's not to say that they aren't also focused on the performance itself and the security. It's just giving employees that choice and giving them that option to really utilize the best devices anytime that they are working. Now, this one's kind of fun because Mitch was showing us some of the features around Microsoft Surface. Some of the things that I really like about Microsoft Surface are when you are going through your different modes, whether you're using it as a tablet or using it as a device itself. You used to have Windows 10 and Windows 10 tablet mode, but now you have Windows 11 that just works. It's flexible, and you're able to not have to deal with weird placements of different windows and things like that. Everything is just fluid. You flip your surface, you detach it, you prop it up, and OS is able to recognize exactly what you're trying to do with that device, and it just makes that process really, really easy. I also like how when you are able to dock into your monitors, you saw Mitch talk about the virtual desktops. I know when I'm using mine, I can take it off and then put it back on, and it remembers exactly what I had my Windows set up as. For instance, I like to use two different types of virtual desktops. So number one, when I have my email open on one portion of the screen, then I have notes up on the other portion, and then I might have my Microsoft Teams open on that portion. That's one virtual desktop I like to use. But then when I'm looking at data and I want to see what we are looking like for 2023 versus 2022, I might have my two Power BIs up here and then one large notepad here that I can then put in some notes and really make that comparison a little bit easier. So by switching to these different virtual desktops, it makes it really easy to be the most productive that I can be. And so jumping into HP and really focusing on that hybrid workplace again, right? The connectivity, having it everywhere, the better Wi-Fi, the better Bluetooth, and really understanding, some of the additional benefits of these newer devices. Well, if you just take a look, these things have better power, better security, bigger screens, longer battery life, and the list goes on and on and on. And so by working with these OEMs, by working with Intel and AMD, and by working with Microsoft, that entire ecosystem can really work together to create those good devices. So I'd like to mention that, when Windows 8 turned into Windows 10, it was about an 8-year gap. And that's a long time. In technology, things move so fast. 1 year can really mean, an insane amount of collaboration and innovation there. So to have 8 years going into an operating system to really support our new type of workers is really incredible. I use Windows 11 and I absolutely love the experience compared to what I was using with Windows 10. And then when it comes with Dell is very, very smart at understanding the TCO that goes into devices. So an interesting article that Dell likes to mention is the total cost of ownership around the devices themselves. So devices over 3 years old, they might require new repairs. They might require replacement of parts. They might have difficulties saving data and accessing data if something does go wrong. They might not have the same capabilities with those devices. So if you tie that all in, it's really interesting to see with these newer devices, we have that better seamless collaboration productivity experience. So with manageability and security and benefits that all come with the newer devices and the newer chipsets, it's really, really cool to see that we're able to all work with these newer devices in the ways that Microsoft, that Intel, that Dell, that Lenovo, whoever it is, really intended them to be. So we have another Zero Trust call out here, as well as the productivity and collaboration. You have your XPS line, your Inspiron line, as well as your Latitude line, all with 2-in-1 capabilities, all taking advantage of those different modes and the different aptics and the different enhancements that Microsoft has really put a lot of time in to understand why people like to use these types of devices. And so really wrapping that all in together and putting a big bow on it with Windows 11, right? We have the partnerships with these manufacturers. We have people within Intel and AMD that can help assist with road mapping and understanding what devices might need attention going into 2025 and 2024. So we can help you really with that Windows 11 migration. And we just want to make sure that every single topic that we've covered to this over the past 9 months has really resonated well with you guys. We do have the on-demand webinar links, but we just want to make sure that understanding the partnerships and then understanding how we can all work together is really what we're all here to do with Insight, with Microsoft, and with all of our ecosystem partners. So I know we're coming up right on time. We had some questions in the chat, so I wanted to make sure we go back to the Q&A. But we really appreciate your time today, and we know that this isn't easy to take an hour or 45 minutes or whatever out of your workday. So just thank you for being with us, and we really do appreciate it. So Mitch, I think we should go back into the Q&A here and make sure that we call out some of those questions for our folks.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of questions here in the Q&A. So let's try and look. Let's see, video of the presentation. So I saw a couple of folks asking for slides and things will be available later. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this webinar is being recorded and will be able to be available back on video on demand.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Awesome. So that I know answers a bunch of stuff there. Insight will have a PDF copy of slides, so you won't get any of that kind of live demonstration, but we can get Insight and those and Ian and team a copy of the slides that at least I used in PDF format, so they can share that with everyone.
Yeah, Mitch, I did see one here related to the applications folder for enterprise.
Go for it.
It says, why aren't we able to manage the start layout using application folders for managing it for an enterprise?
As of right now, my understanding is just the feature hasn't reached to the management point yet. Like the feature is feature rich and ready for the end user, but I just don't believe that it's made its way into the management kind of toolbox yet.
Thank you.
Because, and I'll turn it on its head, because in EDU, right? So so I work the EDU stuff as well. In EDU, it is possible using Intune and some of the other tools that are available for EDU for those ITs to fully manage the start menu and applications and where they're set and what they look like on select devices. So as far as I know right now, it just hasn't fully reached to that enterprise management system, because again, that is relatively new, and by relatively new, I'm talking about a couple months, if even.
All right, and then I did see a licensing question here. So with M365 M5 subscriptions, would we as a business have to purchase Windows 11 devices, or rather Windows 11 licenses?
So remember, Microsoft 365 is different from the operating systems themselves. So if you wanted to say, if you're building your own OEM and your own in-house devices, and you're looking to just license brand new computers that you're physically building yourselves, yeah, right. M365 does not include a Windows licensing. That's licensing for Office and Azure and Intune and all that stuff, right? But if you're looking at Windows 11 right now and you're looking at upgrading older devices that are probably, within the last 4 years, meeting those minimum requirements of Windows 11, then you're just going to upgrade them, right? There's no charge to upgrade Windows 10 to Windows 11, of course. And as a follow-up, I do see another question here. Do you have to use Windows 10 to upgrade to Windows 11? And the quick answer is yes, because any operating system before that was not able to support things like TPM 2.0, meaning they never would have met the minimum requirements for Windows 11. So yes, it probably would have had to be a Windows 10 device. So I hope that answers the question around that. So again, if you're looking at Windows 11 and you don't have the devices, that's what Insight's here for, to help you on that journey to find the right Windows 11 devices to, of course, deploy and manage for your organization. But if you're just saying, well, I have all these computers with nothing on them, do I have to go buy Windows 11? Yeah.
And then I did see a question here related to imaging and deployment. So I wanted to make sure I found that one so we could try to address it. So let me just scroll through here. Okay, so they say...
So in short, again, Windows 11 Enterprise, right, M365 and E5 are subscription upgrades that allow you to kind of manage everything that you have, including Intune and all of your productivity tools. But if you're looking and you need an OEM license on a device, those are always going to be required separately.
And so, Mitch, one of the questions here is related to imaging from Windows 10 to Windows 11. And their question states, what are the restrictions to upgrade Windows 10 to Windows 11 or imaging straight to Windows 11?
So the only limitation is if it meets the minimum requirements. So minimum requirements for Windows 11 is a secure boot enabled hard drive. So we're talking about solid states or NVMe type hard drives, so that allow for secure boot and UEFI BIOS in order to do that. And a TPM 2.0 presence is also necessary. That's it. So if you have a Windows 10 device that's already that has those things ready, they could be upgraded to Windows 11.
Yeah, and from an application standpoint as well, Windows 10 to Windows 11 with Aperture, what is
Yep.
it, 99.6%?
It's a great point, right? I think we talked about it last time when we talked about deployment, right, together, that right now Windows 11 compared to Windows 10, when we talk about application compatibility, meaning your application works on Windows 10, is it going to work on Windows 11? We are 99.6% compatible. So for that 0.4% that aren't, of course, you have Aperture. Aperture is Microsoft's free service to anybody with any type of Microsoft 365 license whatsoever. That can be as low as 1 seat. We will help that organization, that company, that individual make sure that their application does work on Windows 11. And then a brand new feature that we just released this past February, at the beginning of this past February, is the new Microsoft test space. So for users and organizations that have E3 and E5 licensing and up, they have a virtual test space that they can, quote unquote, deploy their applications and settings and whatnot into this virtual environment to make sure that it does work. Completely free and included as part of their subscription.
And then a really, really important question here. I know probably a lot of people have this question. When it comes to upgrading Windows 10 to Windows 11, the 2022 2H, I believe, is the version that they must have to upgrade. So the question here is, can we install Windows 11 from Windows 10 version 1909 or 1809?
That is a great question, and I'd have to dig a little bit deeper into kind of some of the tech stuff and the tech blogs. Right now, I am not doing any active upgrades, right? That's not me or my team, but I'm sure we can find that information for you. But as of right now, I believe there is a specific version Windows 10 does have to upgrade to in order to get that Windows 11 update to show up on those systems. But if it is being managed, meaning if it's a full-blown business managed system, I believe that IT administrators can actually pick and choose which ones to go to, and they can actually just upgrade straight to one or the other.
Yeah, and for everybody on the audience here with the account manager, we do have our licensing specialists dedicated to Microsoft. They can have a lot of these conversations. Our CSP teams can have these conversations. And then ultimately, a lot of our partner BDMs are able to have these conversations around the product side. So, do reach out with any questions and engage with those sales folks, because we do have the resources in place. And that's really what makes it such a large force, right? We have over 10,000 different technical resources and people that are aligned with our partner community.
Yep. Anything else that you saw? I know there's a lot coming in, so I was just trying to keep track.
This is a good question from Jose. I think this ties into what we're able to do with PC Health Check and really identifying some of those devices that may not be upgradable. So will my IT department need to be informed / handle updates on my system?
This is 100% dependent on how your IT manages devices. So if your IT decides that they're full management, they're going to have to send that Windows 11 update or upgrade to your systems to be able to be done. If they manage how things work and the security of that device, but not necessarily as far down as the actual version of the OS, then essentially you could do it yourself. It completely depends on your individual organization and how they take device management. That is definitely a very in-house question. I wish I could answer it for you, but I can't. Sorry.
All right. I see some of these are partner focused, so I'll have Aubrey sort of export these, and then we can reach out to the teams and get back with those answers on some of these. Let me just make sure. Group policy.
I see
So
a
how will
question on
Windows?
here. I
Yeah,
see a
go ahead.
question on here about activating the universal mute button. So the universal mute button that we talked about is not on the original Windows 11 launch. It launched about 6 months later in the very first update to Windows 11. So that would have been February, March of 2023. So that it should have been there, as long as you have that. So I'd have to look at what the build is. So that would be 2021 H1, I believe, would have been the update you're looking for. That would have included the universal mute button and the new collaboration features. So it's been around for a little over a year now. Victor asks if you can dual boot Windows 10 and Windows 11. Sure, using a virtual machine or, partitioning your hard drive, but not inherently. Like, you can't just do it, if that makes sense. You'd have to partition like as if you were dual booting anything else for that matter. Or, of course, use virtual machines, Hyper-V, whatever else.
All right, so I do have one more answer to a question, and then
Super.
I think if there are any additional questions, please reach out. You have my contact information. You have your account manager's contact information. But this one goes back to the licensing question around Windows 11. So Windows 11 Enterprise in M365 E5 is a subscription upgrade to Windows 11 Pro. However, Windows 11 Pro OEM licenses are sold with the device. They will always be required to purchase the OEM license on the device.
Exactly. Sounds good. Oh, I did see one other thing here. This is a great question from Jack. Will Windows 11 new devices affect current group policy environments? The answer is no, not at all, right? You can actually manage Windows 10 and 11 group policies together simultaneously within the same environment. Windows 11 and Windows 10 use the exact same kind of back-end core, right? The actual core of the OS itself. And therefore, group policy and group policy management, you can actually hybrid manage 10 and 11 on the same environment together. With that, I think that brings us kind of to the end of what I see here.
Yeah, as well, me as well. So we are a little bit over time, but there was a lot of good questions, so we wanted to make sure we got them all answered. If you do have follow-up questions, please reach out to us, and we'll be able to get you aligned with the resources. We'll have a lot of our questions in-house that we can get to you as well. But, Mitch, thank you again for joining and talking through us about Windows 11, productivity and collaboration. And we'll see you all soon. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, team. Thanks, Mitch and Ian, for the great presentation. Thanks, everyone, for your time today.